Most people think life is happening to them. Successful people think life is responding to them. That one shift changes everything. Two people can be handed the same setback and walk away with completely different futures. One calls it bad luck and uses it as permission to shrink. The other calls it information and uses it as fuel to adjust. The difference isn't the economy, the boss, the weather, the family, or the timing. The difference is the lens. Your lens decides what you notice, what you believe is possible, and what you do next. Success begins as a private philosophy long before it shows up as a public result. Two people can live through the same week, face the same problems, even earn the same money, and still build completely different futures because they interpret life differently. One person treats events as verdicts. If something goes wrong, it must mean they're unlucky, not talented, or not meant for bigger things. The other treats events as feedback. If something goes wrong, it means there's something to learn, adjust, or strengthen. The event is the same, but the meaning they attach to it becomes the steering wheel of their behavior. Most people don't realize they're not reacting to life. They're reacting to the story they've told themselves about life. That story quietly shapes their choices. If your story is, I never get a fair chance, you will stop preparing, stop asking, stop improving, and then you'll call the results proof that you were right. If your story is, I can influence outcomes, you start looking for leverage, skills to build, people to learn from, systems to set up, habits to refine. You still experience setbacks, but you experience them as temporary and workable. Successful people don't have a magical life. They have a useful interpretation of life. This is why responsibility is so central. The average mindset tries to protect the ego by assigning blame. It says the market is bad. The boss is unfair. The timing is wrong. The family held me back. The algorithm changed. People don't support me. Some of those things can be true, but the moment you use them as the main explanation, you also make them the main controller. You hand over your power. Successful people may acknowledge all of those realities, but they refuse to live under them. They ask a different question. Given these conditions, what can I do? That question is not motivational. It's practical. It forces you to focus on controllables. Your skill, your output, your consistency, your relationships, your health, your attitude. Your philosophy also decides whether you seek comfort or growth. If you interpret discomfort as danger, you'll avoid the very actions that create improvement, practice, selling, learning, showing up, being visible, taking feedback, making mistakes in public. But if you interpret discomfort as training, you will do what's necessary even when it feels awkward. You stop using feelings as permission slips. You start using principles as your guide. That is what discipline really is. Choosing standards over moods. A private philosophy shows up in tiny, repeated decisions. It shows up when you're tired and no one is watching. It shows up when you don't get immediate results and you decide whether the effort was pointless or whether it was planting. It shows up when you get criticism and you decide whether it's an attack on your identity or information that can sharpen you. The successful mind treats life like a workshop, not a courtroom. It is not obsessed with being right. It is obsessed with getting better. It doesn't ask, why is this happening to me, as a complaint. It asks it as an investigation, then it turns the answer into a new behavior. Successful people think differently because they make different trades. The average mind tries to get results while protecting comfort, and that is a deal that never clears. It wants progress without pressure, growth without awkwardness, money without responsibility, confidence without repetition. Successful people accept the adult bargain. Every meaningful result has a price, and the price is usually paid in advance. They don't romanticize struggle, but they don't run from it either. They treat discomfort as a predictable fee for becoming someone better. This is where discipline separates people more than talent ever will. Most people use discipline like a temporary tool. They try it when they feel inspired and drop it when they feel tired. Successful people treat discipline like infrastructure. They build routines that keep them moving. Even when motivation is absent, they don't depend on a mood to start. They depend on a schedule. They understand that the real battle isn't doing something once. It's doing it when it's boring, when it's slow, and when the results are not yet visible. The average mind chases comfort because comfort feels like safety. It says, I'll start when I have time. I'll act when I'm more confident. I'll commit when I'm sure. But certainty is expensive, and most people can't afford it. Successful people choose direction over certainty. They accept that clarity often comes after action, not before it. They move while the picture is still blurry because movement creates feedback, and feedback creates refinement. Waiting feels responsible, but it is often just fear wearing a tie. Another difference is how successful people treat opinions. The average mind is controlled by social noise. It asks, what will they say? It makes decisions based on applause or criticism from people who are not paying the bill. That turns life into performance. Successful people may listen to feedback, but they filter it. They care about the opinions of people with credibility, those who have achieved results, those who understand the game, those who have earned the right to speak into the process. They don't take advice from spectators about how to play on the field. They also refuse to let their own internal opinions become excuses. Many people are loyal to their feelings even when their feelings are wrong. They treat anxiety as truth, laziness as a personality, and procrastination as a condition. Successful people separate feelings from commands. They might feel fear and still act. They might feel tired and still execute the standard. They might feel uncertain and still take the next step. They do not wait to feel like a professional. They behave like one until the feeling catches up. This is also why successful people obsess over evidence, not fantasies. They track what works. They look at their output, their habits, their numbers, and their patterns. They don't say, I'm working hard as a defense. They ask, is my work producing? They don't argue with reality. They respect it. If something is not working, they adjust the approach, improve the skill, change the environment, or increase the reps. They treat the process like an experiment, not an emotional drama. Comfort-focused thinking loves quick relief. Discipline-focused thinking loves long-term leverage. Successful people choose the hard thing now to avoid the harder thing later. They would rather endure the discomfort of preparation than experience the humiliation of being unprepared. They would rather pay the price of practice than pay the price of regret. And the longer you live by that trade, the more your life starts to look lucky. The people who never saw the bills you paid when nobody was watching. Successful people think in seasons and compounding because they understand how real progress actually happens. The average mind wants linear rewards. Work today, get paid today, try once, win once, post once, blow up once. When life doesn't respond immediately, it assumes the effort was wasted. Successful people expect delay. they know that many of the best results are lagging indicators. You plant first, you water second, you harvest later. If you don't understand seasons, you will quit in the middle of the right process simply because it doesn't look dramatic yet. This is why they don't judge themselves by a single day. Most people let one bad morning become a bad week, and one bad week become a bad year. Successful people zoom out. They understand that a day is a vote, not a verdict. They don't need perfection, they need direction. They aim for consistency over intensity because intensity is emotional and inconsistent, while consistency is structural and reliable. They would rather do a smaller action daily than a massive action occasionally because compounding requires frequency. Compounding is not just money. It's skill, reputation, relationships, confidence, and opportunity. Skill compounds when you practice the same fundamentals repeatedly and refine them through feedback. Reputation compounds when you keep your promises long enough that people begin to trust your name. Relationships compound when you invest in people without immediately asking for a return. Confidence compounds when you stack small wins and prove to yourself that you can be relied upon. Opportunity compounds when you keep showing up in the same arena until the right door finally recognizes you as familiar. The average mind lives in moods. It measures the day by how it feels and then makes decisions that match the feeling. If it feels inspired, if it feels discouraged, it delays. That creates a life built on emotional weather, and emotional weather changes every few hours. Successful people build around standards instead of moods. They do not deny emotion, they just refuse to let emotion drive the steering wheel. They set a baseline, the minimum they do, no matter what. That minimum becomes the engine of compounding. They also think long-term about consequences. Most people only look at first-order effects, the immediate comfort or discomfort of a choice. Successful people look at second and third-order effects. What this choice produces if repeated. What it teaches me, what it turns me into. Skipping the workout feels good now, but repeated skipping builds weakness and lowers energy, which reduces output, which reduces confidence, which reduces ambition. Practicing the skill feels uncomfortable now, but repeated practice builds competence, which builds options, which builds freedom. They choose based on where the path leads, not how the first step feels. Successful people are patient with results and impatient with process. That sounds strange until you see it. They don't panic if the scoreboard is quiet for a while because they're focused on inputs. They get serious about what they can control. Hours invested, calls made, pages written, reps done, sleep protected, learning applied. They understand that results often show up in bursts after long stretches of invisible growth. Like a bamboo plant that spends time building roots before it shoots upward. Because they think in seasons, they don't interpret struggle as a permanent condition. They interpret it as a phase. Winter is not your life. Winter is a season. A slow month is not your identity. It's information. A temporary setback is not a prophecy. It's a test of philosophy. When you adopt that view, you stop needing every week to prove your worth. You start building quietly, deliberately, repeatedly, knowing that compounding doesn't announce itself every day. But it never forgets the work you kept doing when nobody clapped.